Early gamers are really used to like a $60 price point versus, like spending $4,000 to $4,000 on a space. How are you going to combat the FUD and incorporating earlier generations of gamers into your game? Are the spaces kind of treated as like a thank you or a benefit to those early people?
It's interesting to hear you say like the emphasis is more on community right now. And hand in hand with community, especially in a bear market, is like an understanding of what the project is and kind of all moving in the same direction. Like if the community didn't believe in what you were building or they didn't have faith that like that was in some way the future, then they wouldn't do it. And when you have something that at this fundamental core is something that works and people can see like this is either where gaming needs to go or this is where the online experience needs to move in the future, then people believe in it part and parcel. And even through a bear market, it almost looks like an opportunity for growth as opposed to just riding on a bull for as long as you can. I found kind of in my short time with Big Time, the flippers have been very, very difficult to kind of deal with because they're used to seeing NFT projects where they can go 30x. And there's something kind of attractive about that. But inherently they're less tied to the community. For us, we really identify first as a gaming studio. And that's why we released really the game first before the economy first. And that way players could try it and then like it and then see that, hey, this is something that's gonna last through the bear market and something I want to be involved in later on.
Web3 is a place for a lot of new money, a lot of opportunity. But in a bear market, that kind of reveals who's there for the community as a means to an end, meaning I'm going to grind, I'm going to say, hello, 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 I'll mint early and then flip it. Or who's there that it doesn't matter that, once they get it, they're never going to sell because this is a piece of their identity.
In Big Time, it's a very much a player run economy. For example, we don't sell any skins to users. The only way to get a cosmetic skin right now is to play the game. I personally have a ton of admiration for what the team at World of Warcraft did. I think that game came out in 2003, and 20 years later, they're still at 25 million monthly active users. That's not just because they shilled things really hard. They built something that people inherently cared about. If you were to just take that and put it on chain and then have that internal marketplace run with blockchain type exchanges, they could do some incredible things. And all of that would be an inherent value just from the fact that people within the community care about it. It's challenging to try and bring that to blockchain, but that's inevitably what Big Time is trying to do. And that's the direction we want to move forward is how do you build something that people care about and want to use this technology on? So that's exciting. And that's what we're trying to do now.
I would never just endorse another company's brand. But I gotta say, you guys are fucking doing it right, man. Whoever came up with the structure of how to build a community, that's very in line with where ETH Games is going. So, I'm excited to be part of this because you guys are just gonna kill it. Your Discord has 500,000 people and 40,000 active. That is wild, man.
I think there's been a pretty big correction in GameFi over the last 6 to 12 months. And I think that's played a big part in why people like Big Time, particularly with the pretty rough articles that have come out in more mainstream media about like Axie. There is almost like an emphasis of moving away from that type of model. And games and in the Web3 space need to change the way they do business. There's definitely been a pretty strong whiplash against value extraction type models that kind of don't put a good community focus out there.
What has been some of the biggest challenges you guys have faced developing a game with the use of NFTs? Because as stated by many, many people, game quality as far as Web3 is concerned has been abysmal.
I would say the biggest challenge has been honestly the outside community members, like gamers that have not given Web3 a chance. That's probably been my biggest personal challenge. Early in my time at Big Time, I engaged a lot on Reddit with r/PC gaming or online games or r/games. And there is a not to sugarcoat it, a visceral hatred for NFTs and blockchain. I hear the term evil Ponzi scheme thrown around pretty easily. And that's unfortunate because I believe that most of that negative sentiment from hardcore gamers, people with a lot of experience and passion for gaming, have seen or heard of negative experience with blockchain, and they're just writing off the entire technology without seeing the upside of it. And that's unfortunate because there is a ton of upside for it. And it goes back to giving identity and ownership back to gamers And especially if you're concerned about things like your data or being able to customize things across multiple platforms, well, the technological route for that solution comes through blockchain. So it's been difficult to kind of convince them that what we're building is a high quality gaming experience and that it's enjoyable and it's trustworthy.
How do you plan to integrate guilds within your community and within Big Time as well? Is it something that you guys are looking for in the long term?
I think guilds inside of Big Time are very different than guilds inside of Axie. They will function with some similarities to Web 2 type guilds, like in something like World of Warcraft. There are benefits to cooperative gameplay, and that's how we want to do it inside of Big Time. When you play with more people, you can play harder dungeons, play more challenging levels, and get more NFTs that way. There are returns to that. You can also build a friendship and group that way. You can chat with people that way. And guilds can be like, hey, I'm going to jump on this server from this to this time. Who wants to come with me? And there are levels inside of Big Time that are more community focused as opposed to combat focused. It's more metaversy in that concept than I think a lot of other earlier blockchain type games. And that's what we try to do.
I know that a big barrier to entry for gaming companies in the Web3 space is the price point. Early gamers are really used to like a $60 price point versus, like spending $4,000 to $4,000 on a space to kind of really get into the game. How are you going to combat the FUD and incorporating earlier generations of gamers into your game? And what have you experienced as far as some of the good and the bad that's come out of that so far?
Great question. Let me clarify. You had to pay money for the gold, silver, and jade early access passes. You're right. The gold passes, some of them got up to like $8,000, and the jade passes are hovering around 40 right now. So the gold pass holders, at least based on what I kind of personally saw, were people trying to either do content creation earlier on or really tried to recoup their values. And many of them did if they really put in enough hours. But that's it. This is the last time you're ever going to have to pay to get into Big Time. Even as soon as Ruby Pass period starts, that's free. And it will always be free to get into the game. So when you talk about like how do we appeal to those types of traditional gamers, they're going to be able to play a AAA game for free. And more importantly, the NFTs inside the game do not affect your game stats. They are purely cosmetic. That's important to us. Okay, so you're probably asking, why did people pay 10K or something like that for a gold pass? Well, the NFT drop rate was way higher, to the point where some people need to understand, like, hey, what you saw on some of those earlier streams for space dropping or other cosmetics is not emblematic of what you're going to see during global launch. But for the most part, those earlier gamers were very much NFT enthusiasts, whereas the people who come in a little bit later on or at that free price point are the gamers. Those gamers are still super important. They are what's going to drive the game. That's what's going to be the preponderance of our monthly active users. But this concept of large amounts of free to play users is not unheard of inside of MMOs. That's really kind of the engine of those economies, is those free players or people who want to spend only a relatively small amount on cosmetics, moderate upgrades. What's different about Big Time is it's not Big Time selling to those players, it's other players selling to those players.
Gotcha. Are the spaces more so kind of treated as like a thank you or a benefit to those early people who got in to support you during implementation?
The space is a land NFT. Aesthetically, in your mind, it looks like a house in The Sims or like a castle. And if you want to have your own private area that you can control membership in and out of, you need space. And they're modular. So if you buy multiple spaces, you can put them together and make them appear bigger. The NFT component of it is if you want to upgrade the cosmetic skins that you find inside the game, you bring them back to your space and then enable some more features and you can upgrade and customize them. So if you want to take a skin that's relatively common and make it more rare, you bring it back to your space, put it to an armory or forge, and boom, you've got a more customized cosmetic now. If you're a guild, you can put together like a uniform for all of your guild members that way. And then the space is very customizable and modular. You can change the layout, you can change the things that appear on the walls, the furniture inside of it, so on and so forth.